Welcome to Local 24 this week. I'm Richard Ransom. Glad you're with us on this Sunday. You're joining us either at 9 a.m. or 10:35 p.m. as we get set to talk about the real story behind the big stories. On the COVID front this week, against the backdrop of a new one-day record of COVID cases in Shelby County, a federal judge in Memphis is considering whether to make her temporary restraining order permanent. The blocks Governor Lee's executive order allowing parents to have their kids opt out of wearing face masks at school. Governor Lee goes one-on-one with our Brad Broders this week. We'll share more of that exclusive interview about his handling of COVID. And speaking of executive orders, Mid-South governors seem ready to fight President Biden on the new vaccine rules he implemented this week. We'll get to all that in a moment. First, let me introduce to you my panelists. Local 24 political analyst Otis Sanford is here, as is political consultant with Thorp Communications, Susan Adler Thorp. Thanks to both of you for being here. Let's first talk about this case being heard by federal judge Sherry Lippman regarding the face mask mandate and her blocking Governor Lee's executive order on that issue, at least temporarily, as she hears more arguments on both sides this week. Let's listen to Jenny DiPrizio's report now as she kind of summarizes what took place in the federal courtroom today, or this week.
We're not here because they need remedial math. We're here because they are at a risk of injury or death if they get COVID-19, because they are immunocompromised, or because they have genetic disorders that render them particularly susceptible.
Lawyer Bryce Timmons says the mask opt-out agreement violates the Americans with Disabilities Act and that medically vulnerable children have the right to access school just like healthy children. Timmons says allowing students to opt out of wearing masks puts others with medical conditions at risk. During a federal court hearing Thursday, the state of Tennessee argued that both groups can attend school and that reasonable accommodations can be made. For example, medical vulnerable people could be put on a different schedule or be placed in a different classroom.
The state is asking that the school districts create segregated environments for disabled and non-disabled students. You know, I thought separate but equal was over, but apparently we're going to argue that again as it relates to students with disabilities.
Lawyers for Shelby County say Governor Bill Lee's executive order inhibits the county's ability to protect its citizens and supports the request to continue mandatory masking in school. In downtown Memphis, I'm Jenny DiPrizio.
All right, so there you have it. That's basically the arguments that were presented before Judge Lippman this week. Otis, you have said previously that you think this is a pretty strong case. Do you still feel that way?
Oh, absolutely, I do. I mean, the arguments that Bryce Timmons made there to the media, and I'm sure he made them even stronger to the judge, is extremely strong. We are talking about due process. We're talking about disparate treatment. We're talking about we're talking about a lot of different things here, Richard. And I think that the plaintiffs here have a real strong case, and the state lawyers are only trying to argue, for the most part, that these parents don't have standing, which is not true. They do have standing. So yes, this is a very strong case, and I expect Judge Lippman to issue that temporary injunction.
Speaking of those parents, the two families, Susan, that brought this case forward, one of those families from Collierville reporting that they're getting troubling messages online. One was termed more threatening, and that had Judge Lippman tell U.S. Marshals that they may have to may need to investigate this and provide some sort of security for the family. It just shows you there's the legal side to all of this, but boy, there is a lot of emotion, especially among the anti-maskers, the anti-vax crowd.
Well, when you get a political overtones in any kind of issue, it's gonna create emotions, and emotions lead to unreasonableness. I mean, you go to Rutherford County, where I think the seat of it is Murfreesboro last week, or maybe earlier this week. A young boy, a 17-year-old boy, went to the school board pleading for a mask mandate because his grandmother had just died of COVID when she was around people who had COVID with no mask.
Yeah, we're going to show that here in a minute. It was pretty disgusting. We're going to show that in a minute. But it just shows you that it's so emotional. In fact, outside the Memphis federal court, There was a mother who was very much against any kind of mask mandate. She went on and on before the cameras talking about how the media is not presenting the full story about masks and the dangers, she said, that they pose. And then when she was asked, well, in the case of these parents who have kids with disabilities or autoimmune disorder of some sort, what about them? Do you care about them? And her basic answer was, they've got their problems, I've got mine, I'm not worried about my kids. Let's listen to what she had to say.
Then they need to worry about their own children. My children, I'm not worried about them. They have been unmasked. They have been healthy this entire time.
So that was right outside the federal court in Memphis. And then the Rutherford County incident that you mentioned, Susan, let's play some excerpts from an ABC report on that episode earlier this week.
The debate over masks in schools turning ugly. In Tennessee, teenager Grady Knox trying to make the case for masks.
I'm worried about my family. If I get COVID, I'm going to bring it to my family.
Only to be cruelly mocked by the crowd when he shared how his grandmother, a former teacher, had died of COVID.
My grandmother, who was a former teacher at the Rutherford County school system, died of COVID because someone wasn't wearing a mask. This is a very
Hey guys, we're here to act professional.
They weren't acting professional, they weren't even acting nice. Otis, it's just disgusting what we're seeing happening.
Well, yes, it is very disgusting. I mean, we expect parents to be the adults in the room. And the lady who was sitting behind him with the smirk on her face, it is just disgusting, Richard. I mean, we have been saying all along that there's no point in trying to shame anybody who does not want to wear a mask or get the vaccine. Let's try to be reasonable and try to reason with them. But that time has passed. There's no reasoning anymore. And that's why I'm glad that the president did what he did the other day. But these parents are disgusting. And they should be ashamed of themselves. Obviously, they're not. They hope this goes viral so they can get their supporters all riled up. But it is absolutely despicable and disgusting what these parents are doing.
Yet the polls are showing, Susan, as disturbing as these reactions might be, they are a very vocal minority. There's a silent majority of parents who, if you believe the polls again, whether it be in Memphis schools, Shelby County schools, or the suburban schools, majority want their kids to play it safe. They want these mask mandates, and if their kid's old enough to get a vaccine, they want that too.
Well, that's probably true, Richard, but what I think that these anti-mask parents are missing is that our individual liberties in this country, while they are great, they are not absolute. That's why you don't have an absolute right to be totally free of any kind of restraint. That's why we can't go into a movie theater and scream fire. I mean, we do not, our individual liberties are not absolute, and a community has a right to protect itself. And I think this is what is really missing on a lot of these anti-max people, anti-vaxxers.
Well, I say it every time. The government asks or tells us we have to wear our seatbelts. They tell us we have to stop at red lights for our own safety. We're told we can't smoke in restaurants for our own safety and the safety of others. Right. How that argument doesn't also transcend to wearing a simple face mask is beyond me.
But don't forget the political component of all this. It has turned, the last presidential administration really turned this whole thing into a political issue. It has stuck. And don't forget the influence of social media on this mask issue. It's crippling our society to a great degree. I mean, what can we do? But you have to follow the law, and eventually, if the mask mandate is in place, the kids either wear the mask or the parents can keep them home from school.
And the parents here, just as the elected officials, and I'm talking about the governors here, especially in Mississippi and Tennessee, they are picking and choosing what they want to have as their freedom and their liberty. The same people who are saying, my body, my choice for the vaccine, when someone says that when it relates to abortion, or they pitch a fit there. and the governors are the same way. And they're standing in the way of trying to get us beyond this virus in a way that is so unhelpful, that it's dangerous, and is putting more lives at risk.
All right, we're going to talk more about the political side of all of this when we come back. Our one-on-one interview with Governor Bill Lee on this very topic. We'll be right back.
I'm attorney Mike Montesi. I get injured people all the money they deserve.
Call 526-2126.
Need cash? TitleMax offers 2 ways to get it. Get cash using your car title. Go to TitleMax.com, enter the car year, make, model. See how much you can get. TitleMax also offers an unsecured loan. No title required. Check out TitleMax.com when you need more cash. Check out TitleMax.com and shop us for rates. Get up to $2,500 without a car title, or up to $6,500 using your car title. And you'll say, I got my title back with TitleMax.
Get your title back with TitleMax.
Ashley Home Store's Labor Day sale ends Monday. Last chance to save up to 30% off. Find this queen bed now only $849. Or get 0% interest for 5 years. Ends Monday at Ashley Home Store.
Injured, NST Strong is the way to go. Call 683-7000.
What is this? What's happening? What year is it?
It's 2021.
All bets are on. You bet your life.
Get out of here, really?
No, you get out of here. Hey, it's my house.
Starting Monday on Local 24 Memphis.
Really, pretty much since the beginning of this pandemic, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee has faced a lot of criticism about his handling of it. And we wanted to let him have pretty much an unedited response to some of that criticism in the one-on-one interview that Local 24's Brad Broders got with him earlier this week. So let's listen to that, and then we'll respond on the other side. Here's Tennessee Governor Bill Lee.
Vaccination today within 10 days provides significant increase in protection. We had 150,000 people get a vaccine last week. We have about 50,000 people 50% of our state vaccinated, but that is the key to this, and we are encouraging Tennesseans to get a vaccine. We're making it free and making it available to everybody.
Right here in Shelby County, 40% of the cases are pediatric. I mean, right. Is the policy working? Does anything need to be changed? I know you believe in masks, but the parents, what's not working right now? The good news about
the pediatric cases is that so far the data shows that this Delta variant is not more virulent for children. In other words, it's not statistically putting more of them in the hospital. There are about 70 children in the hospital statewide today, which is 70 too many. But so while it's not as virulent, it is certainly a challenge that we have, and we tell parents every day, send your kids to school with a mask. Make sure if you want your child protected from COVID, you need to do that. And if your children are 12 or over, they can get vaccinated. This is going to be a tough few weeks. We are encouraged by the fact that we've seen the surge drop off in the states around us that had surges before we did. We think that's coming, but meanwhile, we have a real challenge. We're doing everything we can to navigate through it.
#1 in per capita cases last week.
That's right.
I mean, is there anything that you all are taking a step back and going, something needs to be done differently? Can the root cause be changed to prevent these cases? I know vaccinations are important.
Well, actually, all the things we said, hospital capacity, bed capacity, vaccinations as well, and messaging. Like, people need to know we're in a really difficult spot. Folks need to make the kinds of personal decisions that they make to get this state through the pandemic. We've watched state after state lead the country in their case counts. Right now, that's Tennessee. We need to do all that we can. We are But we need to do all that we can individually. People need to do all we can to get through this, and we will.
You spoke of this last week at your news conference about virtual school options. I know it's been a week. Have your administration changed their position on flexibility for virtual school since last week?
Yeah, so we've given school districts flexibility to close a classroom, to close a school if need be, if there's not enough staff, for example, for a school. We want school districts to stay open. That's the focus. We want kids to be in school in person, but we also recognize that with the number of cases we have, we're going to have quarantine, we're going to have staff out and students out. That's why we gave individual districts the flexibility that they need to close a classroom, to close a school, to navigate through this with the goal of keeping kids in person in class when at all possible.
Do you see any changes making on that right now, or you all want to stay the course?
You know, I think it's working. We've seen a lot of cooperation with districts, and it really is working. It's given districts the ability to be flexible when they need to be, but keep kids in person when they can.
Yeah, is it working, Otis? You know, you listen to him talk, and he's pro-mask and he's pro-vax. Kids should wear masks. We should be getting vaccinated. We're telling them to do that, but you're not really telling them to do that because of the resistance to mandates.
No question about it. You know, if I were a parent of a school-age child, and thank God I'm not anymore, I would be angry at this governor. He is talking out of both sides of his mouth here. He's saying he supports masks, he's saying he supports the vaccine, but everything he is doing is undermining that with his executive order forbidding schools from having a mask mandate, fighting the president over vaccine mandates. He's with the Republicans who are angry at the State Department of Health, who was trying to get teenagers to get the vaccine this summer to the point where they were talking about getting rid of the State Health Department, and he said not a word about that, and then they switched course. No, I mean, when I listened to this interview, again, if I were a parent, I would be angry at this because he is doing nothing in action based on the statements that he just said.
Susan, what struck me is just a lack of personal responsibility as the governor of this state, knowing that, as we learned this week, now 1 in 500 Tennesseans have died from COVID. Also this week, we had the highest number of single-day new cases in Shelby County. Also this week, we learned that Tennessee is #1 in the country for per capita cases. Yet a complete hand-washing of that, I guess because in his mind, he's left it up to individuals to decide how they're going to handle or respond to this epidemic.
Well, I agree with Otis. He's speaking out of both sides of his mouth. And if you want to leave it up to individuals to do the right thing, then let's go back to the video you showed earlier. We were talking about from Rutherford County, from Murfreesboro, and the people who heckled the young man who was pleading for masks because his grandmother had just died. These adults heckled this young man. It, as Otis said earlier, it's disgusting. I went to the state of Tennessee's Health Department website before the show, and as of last Thursday, there were nearly 1,200,000 cases of COVID in Tennessee on Thursday, as of Thursday. 13,879 deaths from COVID, and nearly 4,000 people in hospitals. And the governor is still pleading that everybody take on individual responsibilities. We elect him to be a leader. We elect him to think about what's in the public good, and he has shirked that responsibility.
All right, I've got to leave it there. When we come back, we're going to talk about Mid-South governors reacting to President Biden's executive orders. Speaking of executive orders this week, basically creating several different vaccine mandates, not only for federal employees, but anyone who employs more than 100 people. We'll get into all of that right after this.
The NFL is back, and DraftKings' latest offer is a sure thing. So we got former automatic NFL kicker Martin Gramatica to break it down. Martin?
Bet just $1 on any NFL game, get $200 Automatica, no matter what.
That is Automatica, Martin Gramatica.
It's no stressy, Jesse.
Download the app, sign up with the promo code. Bet $1 to get $200 automatically, and make it rain with an official sports betting partner of the NFL.
Hello.
I'd like to tell you about a research study evaluating a new approach to treat Alzheimer's disease. This investigational drug is designed to boost a repair and regenerative pathway for brain cells to promote brain health and function. We are currently enrolling individuals with mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease. Please contact us today to learn more about the study.
Here's today's hot and perfect tip.
Run in place at all times.
Don't follow extreme routines. Do your own thing at Planet Fitness. Now through September 16th, join for just $1 down, $10 a month, and cancel anytime. With tons of equipment and free fitness training in our clean and spacious clubs. Don't miss out. Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month, cancel anytime. Hurry, deal ends September 16th.
Now through September 16th, join for just $1 down at any of our 9 Memphis area locations.
Probably the biggest news on the COVID front this week came from President Biden and the White House, the issuing of an executive order implementing vaccine mandates for all federal employees. They've got to get their shots within 75 days. Healthcare workers need to get theirs, as do anyone who works for a company that employs more than 100 people. And that immediately brought response from particularly Republican governors, especially Southern Republican governors, once that statement and policy was announced on national TV. Let's show you what the Mid-South governors had to say about this. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee said the new rules are divisive and pit the vaccinated against the unvaccinated, businesses against their employees, and the federal government against the states. He also says the Constitution will not allow this power grab, and he's going to stand up for all Tennesseans. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves said the president doesn't have the authority to require the vaccines for private businesses, adding that this unconstitutional move is terrifying. And Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson said Biden's vaccine mandate is not the right answer and cited it as an example of government overreach. I don't know, I think maybe the governor does have a point here. By issuing that executive order, Susan, it is pitting the vaccinated against the unvaccinated. It is pitting businesses against their employees and the federal government against the states. He's right about all three of those points.
Well, we've been pitted against each other, the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, for months now. I don't think that's anything new. I mean, he can drag it again into the political arena. But my feeling on this whole thing is if the governors of our southern states aren't going to exercise their leadership and help to stop the spread of this virus and save their citizens, then the president will use his presidential authority to push him out of the way. And that goes for Governor Bill Lee. And if they want to contest it in the courts, that's fine. But I think that this vaccine mandate is going to need a lot more clarity. Who's going to repay for the repeated required COVID testing of those who don't get the vaccine? And what about the people who really have truly legitimate medical conditions or religious beliefs? That all has to be ironed out. But I think what the president has done is certainly within his powers, and I think time will prove that.
Especially in a public health emergency, Otis, the president does have broad power.
Certainly he does.
He does it. He does have broad powers. And I just want to quote a Vanderbilt doctor, I think his name is Schaffner. He said, he likened this vaccine mandate to the military service. He said, up to now, we've been relying on a volunteer army. It's not working. It's time to institute the draft.
And Dr. Schaffner has been one of the most reasonable voices on this, so thank you for bringing him up, Susan. Yes. The president here, obviously, he's talked to his legal folks at the White House, and I think he thinks he's on solid ground here. We'll see. It will get to the courts, but I wish, as to Susan's point, I wish that our governors in Tennessee and Mississippi, I thought the Asa Hutchinson's statement was a little bit more restrained. He didn't talk about terrifying and all of that. But I wish that these governors would show just as much outrage for people who are undermining the effort to get us beyond COVID-19. Again, as I said earlier, Governor Lee said nothing when these state Republicans jumped all over the state health department for trying to get vaccines in the arms of teenagers, and even threatened to disband the health department. We heard crickets from the governor. And so now he jumps on something that is really trying to save our lives. And so, yeah, you might be right, Richard. It is pitting, certainly it is pitting the unvaccinated against the vaccinated, but that's where we are. And we need the unvaccinated to do what they need to do to keep us all safe. and they're just not doing it. So shame on these governors. They should hang their heads in shame because they are aiding and abetting a virus that keeps on killing people.
Well, business owners we talked to seem to be supportive, at least the ones we talked to, of what the president instituted this week. Let's hear from Carl Schledvitz, who's the CEO of Monogram Foods.
We have considered it, and the only reason we haven't implemented it is for fear that too many of our employees would go across the street somewhere else.
And it's hard enough to fill these jobs right now in this job market, so Carl's point is well taken. You know, we didn't want to be the bad guy here, and we needed the government to step in, just as what President Biden is doing, and carry the weight for us and say, look, we didn't have a choice. The government made us do this. And yes, Carl Schledvitz is a well-known Democrat in this town, but a lot of Republican business owners feel the same way. They did not want to be the ones who were the heavies on this. They wanted it to come from higher up. Otis?
Yeah,
well,
yeah. I mean,
a lot of the hospitals that were so reluctant to get into this issue of mandating vaccines, such as St. Francis, now they've got a good excuse because the government has said they have to because of Medicare and Medicaid dollars. So I think the president's mandate is very helpful to them.
And you're going to see even companies and businesses with fewer than 100 employees, they're going to mandate masks. I know the Daily Memphian the other day told its employees they need to be vaccinations, not masks. And places like the University of Memphis, where the president is trying to mandate that. I think this is helpful. And again, these governors are hurting us at a time when we need the leadership the most, as Susan said.
Okay.
These governors are looking at the next election, and they're not considering the overall public health, bottom line.
And that's what politicians do, though, right? Or not? You're saying they need to rise above that?
Well, I mean,
politicians do that, but statesmen don't.
Yeah, at a time when we really need the leadership, no, they are not rising to the occasion.
All right, gotta leave it there. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
We buy any car. We buy any car. We buy any car. Any.
Did you know trading in your car at a dealer could cost you money? A recent study found consumers who trade in their car pay an average of $990 more. So don't trade in. Sell it to We Buy Any Car. Learn more and get your free online valuation now at WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Find out how much your car's worth at We Buy Any Car.
We need some help.
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. And if approved, we can have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need.
If you love that chicken from Popeyes, you'll love our nuggets. They're crispy, juicy, and packed with our signature home-style Louisiana flavor. Try an 8-piece today for $3.99.
Love that chicken from Popeyes.
Lindsey Granger, Al Jackson, Erica Cobb, Tori Shulman. This is my show, baby. Celebrating 5 years and going strong.
DBL is moving to 11:30 on Local 24.
The cast for the new season of Dancing will blow you away. Dancing, it's written in the stars. Dancing with the Stars premieres September 20th on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Email me at rransom@localmemphis.com, rransom@localmemphis.com if you have ideas for us to discuss on the show or if you'd like to comment on the show you just saw. My thanks to my panel and to you at home. We'll see you next week for Local 24 This Week.